You may recall when I was doing the video when I tested out this lens in the backyard. And I was talking about how it was hard to hold still when I'm holding it. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to make a gun stock. Now this is nothing original. I've been using these sort of things for years, but what I want to do is have something that I can sort of lay on my shoulder, you know, and it'll be something like this. And what I'm planning on doing is I'm going to use cedar. And I like cedar because when it's varnished or varathaned, it looks pretty nice. So I'm going to see what I can do. Now, as I said, this is not an original idea. Guys have probably been using these things ever since cameras became small enough that you could carry them around. These steady rests can get pretty elaborate, like this one here that's on Amazon for around $500, but also on Amazon is this one here for only about $30. I'm probably going to spend $30 by the time I'm through. Now here's one that looks like a guy sawed off the front of his rifle. He's even got what looks like a hunting scope mounted on it as a viewfinder, and all he has to do is pull the trigger to set off the shutter. That's pretty smart. Now what I want though is to have it so that the weight of the camera, at least half the weight of the camera, is on my shoulder. And possibly the front of the camera might be resting on a monopod that folds down. We'll see what I can do here. These boards aren't even 3/4 of an inch thick. And by the time I get them planed flat and sanded down, they're going to be even thinner. And that would mean when it's resting on my shoulder, it's going to kind of be a little bit sharp. So what I'm planning on doing is laminating at least 3 layers of these boards together. And that should give me one piece about that thick. What I'm trying to do here is find 3 good pieces out of those 2 boards that are in pretty good shape. After all, these are just fence boards. Now my plan is to laminate these things together so that the knots kind of line up at the same place. And in this way, I should be able to have a long piece here, and then it'll curve down, and there'll be a section there that my shoulder will rest on. You'll see what I'm talking about. Now, in order for these boards to glue together well, the surfaces that are going to be glued together have to be flat, and that cannot be said about those fence boards. Okay, this one here, it's been planed on both sides. So it can go against this one. This one is planed on this side. It can go up against this one. And after these are all glued together, I'll plane the 2 outsides. Okay, the plan is I'm going to cover this with glue. Then I'm going to put this piece on here. And in order to keep it from sliding around, I'm just going to pin it at the very end with a couple of pins. In case you're wondering, they're this long. They won't go all the way through into my table saw. Okay, I know this might look a little bit silly, but it's better too many clamps than not enough. I'm going to let this all sit overnight now. I want to wait at least 12 hours before I take those clamps off. We'll see what it looks like in the morning. Well, it's the next morning. See what we got. Well, I think for the most part it's dry. Now you might think I'm being a little overcautious here, but remember when I said I was going to put those little pins in to hold the board so that they don't slide around? Well, sometimes those pins don't go dead straight. They might go in at a bit of an angle. So I'm going to just put on my cheap blade here. I don't want to accidentally dull this expensive CMT blade. Okay, now I don't need to worry about it. I'm glad I took the time to change the blade, because I fired it in right here, but it came out right there. So I don't care about the old blade. I want there to be a little bit of style in this thing. So if my shoulder goes in here, I want it to be just a little bit kind of rounded. And this would be sort of where my chest is going to be, I guess. I could go back up like this, and then just straight out. I think that'll be okay. I can sort of feel it digging in right here. So I think I'm going to have this angled just a little bit more this way. Well, it's getting there. I was drawing with my pencil a little while ago on this soft wood, I pushed a little bit too hard. Now I gotta try and sand it out. You know, I must be getting really lazy because I just hate it when I can't do something with a machine and I gotta do it by hand. Well, I do believe I've got this thing ready for its first coat of urethane. This is the mounting bracket that comes off the bottom of that lens. And what I want to do is make holes so that it can be moved about every half inch or so. So I'll make one here, one here, one here, one here, one here, and so on all the way out. I'll probably make about 10 holes. And then I should be able to space that lens out just right. Well, the holes are through. And on the other side when it came out a little bit rough. But that's okay. Well, I guess it's not okay. But it's going to have to do. Well, I would say that's pretty much what it's going to look like. It's not going to look a whole lot different. Possibly a little bit more glossy. But that's going to be about it. Okay, we'll let it hang there to dry for a while. Hopefully it's not going to take too long. I'm guessing about 24 hours because that cedar soaked it up like a sponge.